So section 3.5, squares and square roots. So we're going to be working with square roots, and it involves learning how to use your calculator. So the thing with square roots is every square root actually has two answers, and the calculator is only going to show you one answer. Okay, so we technically have two answers with a square root. So I'm going to walk you through that. So the square root symbol looks like this, almost looks like a division sign. So you're going to look for that symbol in your calculator. Most of you have the same calculator, and what you're going to do is you're going to press the second button, and then you're going to press the x squared button. So if you have this type of calculator, TI-30X2S, which majority of you have, you're going to press second, and you're going to press x squared, and then you're going to see that symbol come up on your calculator, and you're going to type in 81 and hit equals. And your calculator should give you 9. Okay, so that is positive 9. Your calculator only gives you one answer, which is positive 9. Technically, this has two answers, positive and negative 9. So we're going to put this little symbol beside it, plus or minus 9. Okay, because if you think about it, positive 9 times positive 9 is 81, but also negative 9 times negative 9 is 81. So both of them would get you to 81. That's why we have two answers. Okay, so the next one, square root. So go through that process. Second, x squared, 1. I will come around and help with calculators in just a second. Okay, and so you get the answer of 1. So you put plus or minus 1. Okay, and then 144. So square root of 144. So you should get plus or minus 12. Okay, so the next three problems on there, I'm going to give you about a minute to go through those. So if you would pause your video and go through those three problems. All right, so square root of 49.
7.
You should get plus or minus 7. Don't forget the plus and minus part. Square root of 100. Plus or minus 10, sorry. Square root of 225.
Plus or minus 15.
Plus or minus 15. Okay, so now we're going to move on to a couple word problems. Not difficult, though, just because they have words. All right, the square emoji contains 676 pixels. How many pixels tall is the emoji? So it's a square, and that means the area is 676. So in order to find the side, I'm going to take the square root of that. The square root of 676. Okay, so I heard plus or minus 26. That's good that you caught on to that. However, we're talking about pixels. Can you have negative pixels?
No.
You can't have negative pickles either. But negative pixels, you can't have negative pixels. So it would just be positive 26 because I can't have a negative with something physical like a pixel. Okay? All right.
Why would you get negative?
Because we did that plus or minus symbol because we included both answers. So you wouldn't put that symbol next to this problem. Okay, a square window has an area of 169 square inches. How wide is the window? Okay, so square root of 169 is 13. So again, you would not include the negative because you can't have an area or a side of a window that would be negative. So you would not include the negative answer. Okay? All right, so now we're going to kick it up with some multi-step problems where we need to follow order of operations. Okay? So the next problem.
Isn't that just 8 plus 1? Or not 8 and 25 plus 1?
Okay, so let's look at the square root first. So square root of 25. So when we get to these problems, I will say, later on in the future, you would do both a positive and a negative answer. For right now, we're going to just focus on the positive. So square root of 25 is 5. So I'm going to put 3 parentheses 5 to show that I have a 5 there, plus 4. So then I'm going to follow order of operations. What would I do next? 3 times 5. So 15 plus 4. 19. And that problem is done. Okay, so I want you to try the next one. Go through and try the next one. Give you about 30 seconds to go through it. Okay, so the first thing I would do is square root of 36, which is 6. So I have 3 times 6 plus 7. So 18 plus 7 gets me 25. Okay, so the next couple are harder, and then I have 2 more to add after that. All right, so the next problem is a fraction within our square root. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to separate it and make it a square root divided by a square root. So I'm going to rewrite this as square root of 16 over square root of 4 plus 1/2. And then I'm going to calculate it. So again, we're only going to use the positive. Later on in math, you would do both, but today we're only doing positive. So square root of 16 is 4 over square root of 4 is 2 plus 1/2. So 4 halves plus 1/2.
5 halves.
That's 5 halves.
Which
And you can leave it like that. Actually, you don't have to change it back to mixed. So you could leave this improper as long as it's simplified. Like I wouldn't leave 6 halves because you could simplify that, right? But 5 halves is simplified. You don't have to go back to mixed. We can stop doing that.
That was 5 halves.
Like you can't divide anything out of 5 and 2, so it's completely simplified.
2 goes into 5 twice.
Not evenly, no.
Then you have 1 left over, so that'd be 2 and 1/2.
Or you could write that. That would also be fine. Either answer. Okay.
I get what you're saying.
All right, so the next one, same process. I'm going to split my square roots. So then I have square root of 25 would be 5 over square root of 16, which is 4, plus 3/4.
8,
So I get 8/4,
which is 2.
which is 2. Yes.
What if the denominators aren't the same?
If the denominators aren't the same, I would use my calculator and use that fraction button, that ABC button, or you could get a common denominator, one of the two. Yeah, some of you have an actual fraction button that gives you 2 boxes, and you can use that. Okay, this is not your homework, and we are not done with notes. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to give you 2 more problems. So add this to the bottom of your notes. Okay, so we're going to go through this in the same way, except now we have, it's just a little bit different. So we're going to, again, separate our square roots. So I'm going to put 3 parentheses, square root of 9 over square root of 36, parentheses, plus 2. So then I need to calculate that. So I need to take my square root of 9, so 3 parentheses, what's the square root of 9? 3 over the square root of 36 is 6 plus 2. So you can use your calculator to do this if you want to type it in just like that. So this 3/6 simplifies to be 1/2. So that's 3 times 1/2 plus 2.
5.5.
So 3 times 1/2 would be 3/2, right? Like 1.5. Plus 2 would be
5 halves.
3.5. That's just 3.5.
3.5, right? So 1.5 plus 2 would be 3.5.
So what about 3?
This is 3 times 1/2. So that's like 3 times 50 cents would be $1.50.
It's basically just asking
And then
us
plus
half of
2.
3.
Yeah, it's dividing by 2.
It's half of 3.5. 1.
Okay.
Okay, crap. Plus 2.
No, I didn't see. I had 36.
3.5.
You are smart.
There you go.
All right, last one. I would like you to go through and try this. So I'll give you about a minute to try this. Okay, so if I go through this and I separate my square roots, so I have square root of 36 over square root of 49 plus 1. So that is 2 times 6/7 plus 1.
3, 6.
So that would be the same thing as 12/7 plus 1, which would be 2 and 5/7. So that would be the same thing as 1 and 12/7, and then I would have one more whole. So I would add to it. So 2 and 5/7 would be my answer.
So what do you do with the 7?
Well, okay, if I put this 1 and 12/7, how many holes are with, like, how many times does 7 go into 12?
1.
1. So I add that to the 1, and I get the 2. And what's the remainder?
5.
5. So that's where the 2 and
I did 2.
That's where the 2 and 5/7 comes from.
So on 2.
Okay, that's where the 2 and 5/7 comes from. Okay.
So on the 2 and 6/7, why don't you multiply the bottom? Why don't you multiply the 7?
Because this is 2 over 1. This is 2 over 1. So that's like 2 times 6 and 1 times 7. So that's where we get 12 over 7.
I see.
Okay, so your assignment is not a textbook assignment. Your assignment is a worksheet, and it's a square roots worksheet. So you're going to do the whole entire thing on that square roots worksheet.